here, you know that these are the events that you can see. Today we've got importing with Alex. Next week we got sensitive data. You're going to definitely want to check that out, especially with the new HIPAA features that have been coming out. We've got prospecting and AI. You'll be introduced to some of those new Content Hub features. You'll be able to take a look and see what that newest hub looks like. On July 30th, we've got Building a Marketing Operations Playbook with our friends over at Marketing Ops, Mike. He's a great guy. Then we've got the CRM UI customization. Definitely want to check that out. Make sure that you're customizing the CRM's UI so that you can best fit your team's needs. And then on August 13th, that's our 100th meetup. I'm very excited for that. I've been keeping a secret for a couple of weeks now, and I can't hold it back, but I'm going to because I promised I would. So you're definitely going to join that. We've got some special guests coming. On August 20th, access management. Definitely make sure that you are managing who can do what and where and when and how so that your systems are nice and secure. And then on August 27th, we've got Typeform coming so that you can make sure that your forms are worth filling out. And then September 3rd, right before inbound, we've got how to close more deals with HubSpot using Portent. So great events coming up. And like, you know, it wouldn't be a admin hug without some links out there. So I'm going to actually share the housekeeping link for you all so that you can follow along with me. But I use Super to get my housekeeping done because it makes my life a little bit easier. So that's that first event that we are on. And then if we want to take a look at any previous events, all we need to do is hop over to the YouTube channel. You can get all of the past events if you've missed one or if you want to catch up on an event. This event will also be on this channel as well when you're done. So make sure you've subscribed. If you want to connect with the rest of the community, which is a great thing to do, we are on the HubSpot admin community. You can also join the admin on the LinkedIn group. So we've got our own little hug group that you may absolutely welcome to join. Everyone's favorite place, the Sprocketeer Slack community. You can go ahead and join any of your admins over there, ask questions, get answers to those questions, and just really find ways to connect with other admins around the globe. And if you are interested in putting a Sprocketeer on your LinkedIn profile, I've got a little guide and tour to get you started in doing that so that you can be loud and proud as a Sprocketeer. And if you've got any other questions and you're looking to just really get your super admin skills honed, we've got that super admin bootcamp that is coming up. It looks like that the event is, where did it go? It's running until the 27th, so registration is closed. So by next week, you should be able to go ahead and see what the next one's coming up and be able to register for that. And of course, Bevy, our fun little platform. Sometimes it does what we want it to do. Sometimes it doesn't. If it's not, turning it off and turning back on again is generally the easiest way to get it to work. If not, there's some other helpful tips and tricks there that you can check out. And we do this every single solitary week. So if you've got an idea for a hug and we haven't already gotten an event for that, please submit your ideas. You can submit it right here. It comes straight over to Kyle and I, and we check those out every single time we get a submission. So appreciate all of the ones that are coming in each week. And if you want to connect with Kyle or me, you're absolutely welcome to do that. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and we are excited to connect with you all. So I won't keep us any longer with any housekeeping. Alex, take it away. Share some importing with us.
Cool. How's everyone doing today? Doing well. I see that the chat is active. We got a lot of people here. Before I share my screen, I can no longer view the chat. Drop in the chat the last time you did an import. How often are you doing imports in HubSpot? Are you doing them daily, weekly, monthly? How often are you doing it? Last year, 2 minutes ago. Love it. Hope it went well. Kelsey, daily, weekly. All right, cool. So we have frequent importers here. So hopefully we're going to talk about some things today that'll be of use to you, maybe some things that you can use tomorrow as you do your next import, maybe next month when you do your next import. But let me share my screen and get right into the content. All right, can I get a quick thumbs up that y'all can see this?
Looks great.
All right, cool. So let's talk about our approach to import-export. Before we get started, first, hi, my name's Alex. I've been at HubSpot going on 8 years now. I spent most of that time on our product marketing team, but for the past 2 years or so, I've been working in product on our import-export team. And if after this presentation, we didn't get to a specific topic that you want to chat about, or we missed something, or you want to dive deeper into something that we chatted about, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect. But for this presentation today, I want to talk about our approach to import-export and how we think about the tools that we should be building up. So we at HubSpot believe that our import tools should be quick, complete, and actionable. Now, some of you might be saying, okay, Alex, that sounds cool. That sounds great. But what do you actually mean by that? So let's dive into each one individually and dive a little bit further into why we're thinking this is important and some of the features that we're building out to ensure that we're meeting each of these, starting with quick. So we on the import-export team, we believe that our number one goal is to ensure that you're not spending all day long just importing data into HubSpot. And we believe that because, import is just a means to an end. You're not buying HubSpot because you really love to bring data into a CRM. You're buying HubSpot because you need to build out a marketing campaign, or you're building out a sales process for your sales reps, or a process for your support team to manage tickets. And so import is really just a means to that end. And we want to ensure that the process of bringing data into HubSpot is quick. So with this in mind, I was looking at the median time to complete imports maybe about a month ago. And I saw that we were hovering just under 4 minutes for that median time, which is good. I'm not losing sleep over a 4-minute median time to complete an import. But as we continue to think about different features that we want to bring out, I'm constantly thinking about this 2x2 matrix of adding more powerful features and how that impacts our ease of use. So over the last couple of years, we've been adding a lot of power features into the import-export flow, things that make the tools more powerful, enable you to better manage your data as you're bringing it into the CRM. And I want to ensure that as we do that, we're not compromising our ease of use or making it so you can't get through the flow easily, especially for those simple imports that you're just running. And so if we're here today, in the future, I want to make sure that we are up and all the way to the right, where we have the most powerful import tool of any CRM out there, and also ensure that it's really easy to use as we do that. So with all the power features that we've been running, I've been thinking about how can we make our import tool even easier to use, make it so you can get through that flow even quicker. And one thing that I've been thinking about is this point of feedback that we got from Karen, where she said, hey, it works great, it's a good process. There's a lot of button clicks just to get through that import flow. And as I looked deeper into this feedback, I realized it wasn't just Karen that was telling us this. It was quite literally everyone. It is our number one point of feedback that we get on import, that import is not easy to do. There's too many options, too many screens, too many clicks. The feedback went on and on and on. So as we thought through how we can make the import tool even easier, as we start to think through even more power features that we want to add, we took a look at the steps we have and realized, this is quite a few steps that we have in the import flow. And so we decided, we can probably remove 2 of these. So live now, we've removed 2 steps from the import-export flow. The first is the step where you ask how many files are you importing, and the second is where we ask how many objects are you importing. That latter one we infer off the object selection step, and the how many files are you importing, you can now select that on the file upload step. So we launched this a couple weeks ago, and we say, this will be a good customer delight moment, addressing our number one point of feedback. We didn't necessarily think that there would be any big movers and shakers on key metrics as we launched this. Now, it's far too early to use this as definitive data, but the early results are really promising. So just by removing 2 steps from the import flow, we've made the import flow 1 minute and 46 seconds faster for our customers. It's hovering just above 2 minutes right now, which is super, super cool. Maybe even cooler, if you start the import flow, now that we've removed those first 2 steps, you're now 15% more likely to finish that import flow. We're hovering in the mid-70s. Now we're almost pushing 90% completion for the import flow. And what's not listed here, but is equally impactful, is that we kept error rates consistent as we did this. So making sure that errors are the same as we made the import flow faster, and also made it easier to complete that flow. So another thing that keeps me up at night as I'm thinking about ease of use and the quickness of our import tool is that for all these power features that we're adding for super complex imports, most people aren't using them. 85% of all imports are just simple contact imports, and only have a couple columns where you're importing maybe first name, last name, that's it. And so for those people, they don't need all the bells and whistles in their import tool. They just need a simple, quick way to get data into HubSpot. So this is very future looking, not something that we're going to launch anytime soon. But I want you to imagine a future world where you could copy a selection of data from a spreadsheet file and paste it into the CRM. Or maybe you could drag and drop a CSV file from your desktop onto the index page in HubSpot, and it starts to create the contacts for you. For those really simple imports that you're doing, this is the future that me and the rest of the import-export team envisions, and something that eventually we want to get to as we think about how we can make those really simple imports that you're doing really quick. Okay, so that's quick. Let's talk about complete. For this one, our number 2 goal on the import-export team is that any data point in the CRM that you can create natively, you should also be able to create it in bulk via import. And I think we've made a lot of really good progress on this. It wasn't too long ago where you can only import contacts, companies, deals, tickets, maybe custom objects. But in the past year or so, we've made it so you can import sales activities, so meetings, tasks, notes, calls. You can import marketing events now. So you can say, these contacts registered for this event and these contacts attended the event. If you want, you can import custom events. So you can take app clicks or app downloads from a third-party event tracking service that you're using and import those into our custom events tool. We've also done a lot of work on associations. So now you can create same object associations via import. We're also doing a lot of work to make sure that we're properly handling different validations that the associations team has built out so that import respects those validations as well. But the most impactful thing that we can do as we're thinking about, okay, what parts of the HubSpot data model do people want to import to is just simply ask our customers. So I cannot see the chat currently, but I'm going to take a quick sip of water. And while I do that, I want everyone to drop in the chat, what's something that you want to import into HubSpot that you cannot import today? I'll review the chat after this, and we will make sure to take that feedback into account.
Wow, you got some immediate leads and attachments.
Leads and attachments. All right,
Yes.
So if we want to be able to import to the leads object that was launched last year, and also attachments. I'm assuming that's attachments on records, like a PDF file or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. And then let's see, notes, new property, assigning each import to campaigns.
Okay. For those attachments, we can dive into this after the presentation maybe, but would love to know what you would expect a CSV file to look like that includes a PDF file. That's my big question for the folks that are looking for attachments into the CRM.
Zach says he's got use cases, so.
Amazing. Zach, hit me up. Follow me on LinkedIn. Let's go. Cool. All right, cool. I cannot wait to look at the chat after this. I'm going to keep moving. Beyond just, the HubSpot object data model, we want to enable you to bring in potentially unstructured data into HubSpot, particularly in our datasets tool, which enables you to take different points of data within HubSpot and create calculated fields, more merges, joins, and use that to build custom reports. But until recently, you were restricted to using HubSpot data to do that. So you had to use contacts and meetings and companies, the specific HubSpot objects that you had access to. If you wanted to report on something that was, offline data, you really couldn't do that. And so we recently launched a beta where you can add CSV data into the datasets tool and import to it and use that offline data as a data source within the datasets tool. So this is currently in beta, but with the ability to bring offline data into datasets, you can now create custom lead scores based off offline data, where you can merge financial data from your ERP with HubSpot data to build out even more robust reports, and so much more. We're really just scratching the surface with this. There's so much potential for how you can now build out custom reports when you can import data into datasets that doesn't necessarily fit neatly into HubSpot's object data model. And so my first CTA for all of you, I want you all to go into your portals now. And if you're an OpsHub customer, I want you to join this beta. We want to know from you, what use cases do you have for importing to datasets? What HubSpot data will you be merging with offline data to create these reports? And again, this is really early days. So how do you want us to continue to expand this functionality as we build it out? We're in the early days. We can continue to flesh this out. So really looking forward to seeing all your feedback on how you plan to use data set imports to supercharge your reporting in HubSpot. Okay, so we've done quick, we've done complete. Let's do actionable. For this third one, our goal is really to ensure that imports create clean, predictable data in your portal so you can immediately begin to use the CRM. And this goes back to that point that I made right at the beginning. No one buys a CRM just for import. Import is just a means to an end for that marketing campaign that you're doing or that sales process you're trying to build out for your reps. And so in order to create this clean, predictable data, I think we have really two levers at our control here. The first is to enable you to manage your data better as you're importing it into HubSpot. And the second is to put up smart guardrails in place so that you don't have to worry that something catastrophic might happen as you're importing into HubSpot. So let's talk about better managing your data. I think the first tool we have to really handle this right now is our preview validation tool. So as you're importing into the mapping step, you can see, oh, if I were to finish this import in this screenshot, there are 0 errors found, but maybe we found a couple hundred errors, and you can see exactly where that is and start to action them. Now, when we first launched this tool, I think we did 3 rows of preview validation, which is all fine and good. We later expanded to 100 rows. We're currently at 1,000 rows, which handles, I think, 90% of all imports. But in the future, we want to ensure that we are able to handle every single row in your import file. So we're a little bit off on that, but know that the future looks towards doing full file preview validation for our customers. Really excited for when we're able to deliver that to you all. One of the coolest features that we're able to do with preview validation is do invalid enumeration option remapping. So let's say you have a file, and in that file you have a column that says yes, no, down the column. But the property that you're importing to in HubSpot accepts true, false values. So with invalid enum option remapping, you can take those yes, nos and remap them to the correct values in HubSpot without having to quit out of import, go back into your file, change the options there, and then restart the import process, only to figure out that you have even more errors in your file. So when we first launched this tool, the month before we launched, we saw 146 million instances of this error every single month. This is by far our most prevalent error that we saw. And so we wanted to build something that enabled customers to action onto it. In the month post-launch, we saw that this error rate dropped drastically down to 77 million. Now, 70 million in a month is still a lot, but we cut the error rate nearly in half. So we're really excited to see how customers continue to leverage invalid enum remapping to better take control of their data as they're bringing it into HubSpot. And we're just beginning with our remapping tools. We want to expand our remapping tools to handle even more use cases so you can better manage your data as you're bringing it into the CRM. So in the coming months, you can expect to see an owner property remapping. So you can remap owners that you're importing and remap it to the correct one if you maybe had a spelling mistake in their email address. Or association label remapping. Again, simple spelling mistake in a spreadsheet, remap that to the correct value in HubSpot. And then we're also going to explore how we can build out an auto remapping tool. So instead of having to manually do every single remapping on that mapping step, we can automatically do that for you with just the click of a button to save you a ton of time as you're bringing your data into HubSpot. And again, this is just the beginning. We have a lot more that we want to do with this. And again, your feedback is appreciated. So if you have something specific that you want to do with our remapping tools to better manage your data as you're bringing into the CRM, please hit me up. We'd love to hear about it. Okay, let's talk about safe guardrails now. This isn't a direct quote, but I'm sure if you haven't said this to yourself, one of your users has said it and then brought the problem to you for you to solve. We hear all the time from customers say, oh my God, I didn't mean for this import to trigger this workflow. What have I done? This is catastrophic, big problem for me. And so in beta, we currently have proper usage in the import flow where we'll surface for you all the workflows and lists that could potentially be impacted if you were to execute that import. So you can go and you can say, okay, this workflow, I should turn that off before doing this import. Or, this list, I actually expect all these contacts to be added to this list. I'm cool with proceeding. So this gives you more control over how you're importing data into HubSpot. Again, a CTA for all of you. This is currently in beta. We'd love to see everyone here join that beta so you can kick the tires, try it out. Let us know if it's useful for you. If you find use in it, we'll soon take it live to all, so every customer of HubSpot can use it. Okay, the final thing that I wanted to touch on, it doesn't have to do with import at all. It actually has to do with exports. I sometimes forget that the import-export team also works on exports. I'm sure some of you do too, but we also manage the export functionality in HubSpot. And our main goal when we're thinking about admins as it pertains to exports is that you should never be caught off guard by someone bringing data out of your portal in HubSpot. And so last year we launched a large export warning notification. So an admin can say, okay, I have these exports that are being done. And every time someone exports more than, let's say, 1,000 rows, I want to be notified that that export occurred. So we launched this functionality, super happy with it. And then immediately you all made it crystal clear that a warning just simply isn't good enough. Something retroactive isn't giving you the control that you need. I love Marcel's quote here, who says, nice, but isn't it too late when it is already done? An export approval functionality would be nice. And I agree with Marcel. And so that's exactly what we're building. We're currently developing an export approvals tool to give you more control more governance over how people are extracting data from your portal. So here's quickly how it works. Again, this is still being developed, so it's all in the works. But there's going to be users who can approve exports. That'll be all admins, such as yourself, as well as any users in your portal that you specify have the power to do those approvals. So maybe you have a manager of a team that you want to be able to manage those exports. You can say, hey, they can approve exports. Also, if you are in the sensitive data beta, that's a tongue twister, but if you're in the sensitive data beta, any export that contains a sensitive data property will require an approval by default. We want to make sure that there's that extra layer of security if someone is extracting financial information or healthcare information, whatever it might be. The other levers at your control, you can do an export approval process by the size of an export. So if someone, again, is exporting more than 1,000 rows, you can say, okay, that requires an approval. And then again, you can specify specific users that you want to be required to either not have an approval or have an approval. You have the power to manage this based on a user basis. Cool. So we are still building this, but we are actually very, very close to having a beta up. So I want you all to either copy down that bit.ly link, I'll drop it in the chat after this, or scan that QR code and fill out the form that's on the other side. We would love to build out a beta group of engaged admins who want to give feedback on this tool to make sure it is valuable for you, so you feel like you have proper control over your exports from HubSpot. Okay, so that's what I got. So those are our 3 tenets: quick, complete, and actionable imports and exports from HubSpot. I want to thank you all again for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you all, answer any questions you might have, listen to your feedback. And again, if we didn't touch on anything or we don't get to touch on anything during the rest of the time that we have today, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome, Alex. There are a ton of questions in the Q&A panel, so I'm glad you left time. So guys, if you have any more questions, just make sure you're getting those over in the Q&A chat. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to go over and upvote the ones that you want. I will keep refreshing just in case you upvote something while we're answering them. Alex, there's all kinds of activity going on in the chat. If you want to stop sharing your screen so you can take a peek, that's absolutely perfectly fine.
I would love to stop sharing my screen. I don't know how to.
If it's not all the way at the top right, there's a bottom bar. It's like a little square that says screen share. Sometimes it gets hidden by your actual window. I mean, I can always go nuclear and turn you off and turn you back on again.
I might do that. I really just don't see the option.
All right, let me do that. Let me do that real quick while you guys are upvoting your questions over there. And then we will do that. So give me 1 second to turn you off. And one more time. Let's see. Bring Alex back. There he is. How about now, Alex? What are you seeing?
All right, I'm back. Cool.
I don't know why it wants to do that to you. It's just because, why not?
Why not, right?
Why not? All right. Tons of questions. All right. I'm going to go to the most upvoted from Michelle. Is there or will there be a way to import contact lists with associated company by mapping through the company ID? You can add contact info, company name, but would love a way to add contact info, which is company ID.
I'd love a little bit more information on what we're asking there. Today, we allow you to associate records across the row in your import file, and you can leverage a couple different unique IDs as you're doing that. So for companies, you could leverage the record ID that HubSpot provides you. You could use the company domain name if you want. You can also use a custom unique ID if you want. So if you go into property settings and you make any company property that you create require unique values in the CRM, you can then use that in the import flow to dedupe off of. So within the mapping table, you'll see in the mapping guide all the different properties that require unique values, and all of those can be leveraged in order to update or upsert records in the CRM.
Awesome. Michelle, if that didn't quite answer your question, definitely go ahead and put in another question or put something more in the chat. Let's see. Kara says, is there a roadmap when the import button will be not nested on the company contact deal object, but rather just a button at the top next to settings so that we can get the page in one click from any spot?
You're after my own heart. I would love to make the import tool a main nav button. And feedback like this helps us prioritize things like that. So if we can someday make it so that it is a main nav button or somewhere where you can customize where it shows up, we would love to do that. It's just a matter of making sure that we're doing it in a means that works for all customers. So if I had my way, we'd have import on every screen, let me tell you.
Awesome. That one had 13 upvotes, if that helps.
Okay.
Move that priority up anywhere. And Amber even says to piggyback on Kara's question, in addition to imports, it's almost impossible to find marketing events and custom events if you don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. On that note, we do have an initiative to take all the different import experiences that we've created over the past year. I know we've created a few marketing events, custom events, data set imports now. We want to make sure that we're surfacing those in the core import flow for the people that have access to those tools. So in a not too distant future, you should be able to see, oh, okay, I want to start an import. I want to either import to the CRM, or maybe I want to import to a data set. Maybe I want to import events, etc.
Awesome. Let's see, Rich. I might have to ask a little bit more clarifying here. Are you looking to provide a light BI tool in HubSpot? Can you give a little more information on that, Rich? Because there's all kinds of tools that are in there that we can probably talk about, but if you could add a little bit more on that. Let's see. Charlene says, is there any plan to make imports for multi-select properties easier?
Yeah, so today, if you're importing to a multi-select property, you need to separate all the different values with a semicolon. And if you want to update what you're importing, you would add a leading semicolon to that value. Would love to hear how you would prefer that to work. If there's a different way that you would expect that to work, we're all ears, nothing is set in stone. So if there's a different way that you'd want that to work, I'd love to hear it. But for now, we don't have anything prioritized to necessarily change how that's going to work.
I can tell you that learning to put in the semicolon was probably the most life-changing thing in imports for me. How can I associate multiple companies to one contact within the same import?
Yeah. The way that you do that today is you copy down the record ID down the row. So let's say you're associating multiple contacts to one company. So you would take that company unique ID, either we talked about this earlier, the record ID, the company domain name, or the unique ID that you're leveraging, and you would copy that down multiple rows. And then on each row where that unique ID is represented, you would then add the contact information next to it.
Awesome. Love it. I'm going to resort just in case any more came in. Let's see. Susie says, what is the best way to import contacts to have a personal email such as gmail.com, Yahoo, Outlook to avoid duplicate records?
Yeah, so I think we have a number of ways that you can handle it. I think the best way you can do that is you can add alternate email addresses via import. And so if you want, you can say, okay, this is their business email, but they also have a personal email maybe. And you can add that as their alternate email address by importing to, I believe it's called the alternate email address field.
Awesome. All right, Yvette's got a long one. So we are faced with the following challenge. The import file contains a column for the contact's email address and another column for the contact property product. The contact's email can appear in several rows of the import file because it has several values for the corresponding contact property product. How can I ensure that the contact is not recognized as a duplicate in the import file, but that all values are imported to the contact property product of the contact? Given the number of contacts, it is not possible for us to merge the rows of contacts with multiple values.
Interesting, really interesting. I'd love to know if the product value, if the product property is multi-select or drop-down select, etc. That seems very specific. I'd love to dive into maybe specifically with Yvette to talk about her use cases. Yvette, if you want to follow up after this with me on LinkedIn or over in the Sprocketeer community, if you're there, I would love to dive into your specific use case. Also, while I'm thinking about it, on the last slide that I had that beta link for export approvals. I just dropped that. I think I dropped it into the Q&A. Let me drop it into the chat.
That's okay. Q&A is good too.
Drop it into the chat. Would love, if anyone's interested in joining that beta, would love to get you into it once we have it built out.
Love it. So Lance, that answers your question. That's how you join the beta. Let's see. Michelle says, I'd love to be able to add the import-export screen to the new HubSpot bookmarks function.
Yeah, I think that goes back to having import in the nav. I also would love that. And when I saw that built out, I was like, oh, okay, you can only select something that's currently in the nav. But what if you want to customize that further and take something that isn't in the nav, but bookmark it because you're using a specific tool like import over and over again? I agree. Would love to have it there. And hopefully with feedback like this, we can make a push for it.
Absolutely. Let's see. Maggie says, any opportunity to make HubSpot date fields available to import to?
So you can import to date fields. It's listed on our KB article how you would do it. There's specific formatting though, so I understand that's a little tricky. But if you go into our KB article on how to set up your import file and do a quick Control F for date time fields, you'll see how you can format your imports to that.
Gotcha. Let's see. Kara wants to know what is there a roadmap of when we'll be able to import leads? You did ask what they wanted to import, and they did say leads.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. I think, we have functionality so that once something is an object on our object data model, it's relatively quick to build out import functionality towards it. So it's not like, a super strenuous process. We just need to make sure that we're prioritizing it against other things. So if a bunch of people want leads to be imported, drop it in the chat now if you want leads to be imported. We can definitely prioritize that accordingly. It's just a matter of making sure that we're prioritizing against all the other things that we have going on the import export team.
Absolutely. And I will also I'll drop the survey link. And then if you guys want to put that in there, I will absolutely make sure to share it with Alex so he can share it with the team.
Thank you.
All right, let me get back. I'm going to resort just in case I missed any. Let's see. Any tips, tricks on event imports for contacts? We see a lot of duplicates, inability to match strictly on email and imports, and we are getting HubSpot IDs from the third-party conferences.
Interesting. So as you're doing a custom event import or a marketing event import?
Yeah. Matthew, if you want to put any more details in the chat.
Specifically with that import? No?
Yep.
Can we bring them up?
Bringing them on.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, yay. Okay. Hi, guys. So we get third-party conference data, and we're not using the leads object yet. This is more for more so than putting somebody as registered or attended status. I need to be able to create contact records, set as lead. We are not given the HubSpot ID. So from these third-party booth scans and stuff like that, but we still need to import them. And if it's matching just on the email, we're seeing a lot of duplicates still.
Interesting. If you have a third-party ID from that system, the process that might be good to take is to create that custom contact property in HubSpot and specify that it requires unique values upon import so that you can then use that ID that you're getting from that third-party system as your unique identifier as you import. That might potentially solve things.
Can we swap those out in between imports then? So if I have a Zoom info contact ID or a Microsoft build one or a Kubernetes, for each conference that holds an ID, can I swap those out for those identifying fields?
It would have to be so if you want one field with a different value to update the same record with a different value, it's going to require a unique value. So every time there's a new value there, it's going to create a new record. It needs to be something that if you include a value in your import file, we'll then scan your database for that value in that property. And if we find a match, we'll update. But if there's no match, we'll create a new record.
Okay, but there's not a limit for how many unique value property, how many unique properties you can put in for matching?
I think there's a limit of 10. Maybe someone can find that for me, but I think there's a limit of 10 unique properties per object.
Cool, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Awesome. I did put the survey in the chat so that if anyone does have any of those very specific questions, they can go ahead and submit those, and I will make sure that they get over to you.
Awesome.
All right, let me get back over to Q&A. Let's see. Liz wants to know, in the future, will we be able to reverse or undo an import on our own without having to open a ticket?
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz.
I love this question. It's so tricky. It's so tricky. We get this feedback a lot. And the thing, if we just wanted to revert an import, simple. We just, say, okay, undo the import. Those contacts that you imported, proof gone. The thing that's tricky is there's so many potential downstream impacts to an import that it's really hard to pick the cutoff point on where we want to revert from. So you import a list of contacts, it updates calculated properties in the CRM, and also enrolls half of those contacts into a workflow that sends them 4 emails. At what point should we undo that import? And for things like email sends, we can't undo that. So it's really tricky for us to pick when we can determine what's the cutoff point for a revert of an import. So instead, what we're prioritizing now is giving you a bunch of tools up front so that when you do click that import button, you feel extremely confident that what you're doing is exactly what you want. that's what my team is prioritizing. However, I do know that there's another tool at HubSpot that's working on data backups and restores of those backups. So you can say, okay, like I have this data backup from this date, and I actually just did something that I didn't want to do, and I want to restore back to that date. That's something that another team at HubSpot's working on right now as we speak.
Awesome. Let's see. Maddie wants to know, is there a way to preset validation or updates for common mistakes? So for example, countries in the wrong format, New York versus NY, or things like common spelling mistakes, like I make all the time.
Yeah, so hopefully the auto remapping tool that we're currently working on will solve some of those common spelling mistakes. But for things like states, you have the abbreviation, you want the full name. That's a great example of that. We are currently thinking about a saved remapping tool where you can save different remappings that you might want to have on hand and leverage them within import repeatedly. So that's one of those and more things that we're considering as we look into our remapping tools. If you want to follow up with me on any other like specific things you want to do with our remapping tool, would love to hear other use cases just like that. That's a perfect one that, you know, is not only feasible, but something we're also thinking through.
I didn't skip your question, Lisa. You're next. I saw you in the chat. Is there a way to import a clear? So previous imports brought in junk in open text fields that need to be cleared out. But if I do an import with a blank, it doesn't override the current junk. As a result, I'm importing delete in the field, then sorting the results and doing a field update to clear those. Yeah, those contexts. I think we all have done this.
Yeah, but by default, we've kind of taken the stance in import that you should never use import to delete information. That's just a stance we have on the team. I think there's those use cases where it sounds really great. There's also those use cases where something really bad could happen. And so just by default, we've taken the stance that we won't remove information based off of import. It's either you're creating new information or you're updating existing information. And that's kind of the way we think about how we want to handle imports. The other options too of sorting and deleting manually in the CRM or using a workflow potentially to clear property value are probably your best bets at this point in time.
Interesting. Okay. Are there resources you can share that cover how to set up remapping automations, or is this an upcoming feature? This would be a huge time saver.
Yeah, so currently not in the product right now. It is manual, but we are currently building that out. I have designs for it that I need to review after this. So something that we are actively working on and want to build out. But it'll be something that once you land on the mapping step will surface for you. Hey, you know, we found 200 errors here. And then we'll give you the option to either manually go through them, or we'd say, hey, we can do this for you. Do you want us to do that? And you can review and then click, okay, yes, I want to remap this property and then this property, and we'll auto remap for you. But again, very early days there. There's potential for that to change. So feedback is always welcome.
For sure. Let's see. Robin wants to know, is there a way to have a custom contact field be the unique identifier, or do we always need to use the contact ID?
Nope. So it was that way for a really long time. Contacts are a special snowflake in HubSpot, but we recently made it so that any object that you have in HubSpot can use either record ID or a custom unique ID of your choosing. So if you go into property settings, create a property, and then require that it requires unique property validation, so every value for that property needs to be unique, you can then use that within import to upsert and dedupe your records. Also for contacts and companies, for contacts, you can use email if you so choose, and company, you can use company domain name if you want. So there's those other options for you as well.
See, I resorted because I thought I saw one that I didn't answer. So Steve says, importing multi-select field in HubSpot, I suggest introducing a new feature, an option to remove current value, which kind of goes against what you just said, but I'm going to read the whole thing anyway. This would provide a solution by enabling the removal of a selected value from the field without impacting the remaining values.
Yeah, totally. So the way that you would do that now is, I think if you imported and didn't, if let's say a multi-select value had value 1, value 2, and value 3 for an options. And then if you imported and didn't bring in that leading semicolon and just put value 4, then value 4 after the import will be the only value that is there. Again, just like by rule, we don't delete information, but that's updating a value for a property. And so we're cool with doing that.
So Jeanette, I'm gonna just say he answered your question just now, but the semicolon hack again, since he just went over that.
And if you search our database for like import multi-select, an article comes up that specifies it all on how you would do that.
Let's see. Corey wants to know any plans to allow importing invoices if you use an ERP or other than QuickBooks.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely on our map of things to do. Subscriptions, invoices. We want to make sure that we have those importable. So feedback like this super helpful in helping us prioritize that. But know that we are on a mission to try to make everything importable into HubSpot. So invoices, subscriptions coming soon.
Perfect. Let's see. Alicia says, follow up to Charlene. I'd like invalid options to simply not be included rather than fail the update of a row entirely. So I'm not sure. I don't remember which Charlene one was. So if you want to add anything to that, Alicia, go ahead. Let's see. Frank says, oh, there she is. Look at that.
Let's go, Alicia.
Got to unmute.
Oh, Alicia, I think you're muted.
Bottom left-hand corner.
There we go. Sorry.
There she is.
So for the multi-select options, sometimes we do exports from other systems where we're trying to get a column value that has like 150 values, and we only need 10 of them. So rather than cleaning up the export file, it'd be nice to just have the relevant pick list values get updated in HubSpot rather than, in my experience, the row just sort of fails entirely.
So maybe to say it back to you, you have the ability in your external system, there's hundreds of options, but only 10 of those live in HubSpot. And so when you're importing error, you want us to say, hey, values worked and write that here.
That's it. Yeah.
Got it. Super interesting feedback. I appreciate that. I'll bring that back to the team. That's a good one.
Awesome. Let's see. Frank says, frequently migrating from some of the less robust CRM tools, we find that some clients will have a company contact and deal data all in the same sheet. 3 objects in total. Is it on the roadmap to allow for 3 objects in a single import to maintain associations for all 3 objects?
Yeah. So today you can do as many objects as you want, really. There probably is a limit. I want to specify that there probably is a limit. But if you put contact data, company data, and deal data in one spreadsheet, as long as the records are across the same row. So let's say you have first name, last name, email, and you have the contact information, and then you have company name, company domain name, you have the company information on the same row, and then you have the deal information for deal name, deal pipeline, deal stage, again, on the same row. We'll then create those 3 records and associate them all in the CRM. So I'm not sure how your third-party system is delivering the data to you. There might need to be some cleanup in Excel in order to get it formatted correctly. But as long as everything is along the same row in the import tool, then it'll be associated together upon import.
Definitely. Okay. Let's see. Rich says, on the BI question, I was wondering, based on the import data set tool, if there was going to be expansion of HubSpot report to be more of a BI tool. At the moment, it's siloed, adding other database connections, BigQuery, Redshift, etc., to get a holistic business picture rather than a HubSpot version.
Yeah. I think if I looked into my crystal ball and said, okay, where do we want to take data sets? I think that's exactly right. We want to kind of blow that out to make it a more powerful tool. So you can bring in a bunch of different data sources and start to manage it within data sets and then take action off of that data set. And today you can create a report. Maybe in the future, you can use that data in a workflow of some kind, or you can write that data to the CRM to further enrich your contacts, companies, and deals. These are just forward-looking things, but it's definitely where we're thinking of taking the tool. And importing to data sets is really just the first mover there. It's a relatively simple data source compared to BigQuery and all those other things that you mentioned. So starting with import, potentially expanding from there, and then I think the real kicker is when we enable you to take action off of that data set.
Yeah. Is there a way for you to reference which betas require enterprise or professional hub so that the people know, which beta they can actually enroll in if they don't have full enterprise, if they only have professional? Can you go through those real quick?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned 3 betas during the talk. I mentioned the export approvals beta, which will be enterprise across the platform. So approvals as it stands today is enterprise. So if you have enterprise, you'll be able to use approvals. If you're pro or below, you'll have to upgrade in order to use approvals. And then I mentioned the sensitive data beta. I believe that's also enterprise, not pertaining to import specifically. And then dataset imports. I think datasets currently lives at enterprise. I say that with a little hesitation because I think there is some work to move that around and where that lives in Ops Hub. So in the future, it could be an Ops Hub professional. But as it stands right now, I think you'll need Ops Hub Enterprise in order to use the datasets import beta. And then the other one I mentioned was the property usage in import, which is available to all customers. So you're able to go and kick the tires on that no matter what tier you have. And if there's a specific beta that you're interested in, the way to like understand if it's available to use, if you go into your portal, it'll only show up for you if you're able to enroll in it. So I encourage all of you to go to the product update section of your portal and click around, see what's available to you. You might find something that I mentioned today or something else that could be interesting to you.
Yeah, no, you said something that was important. If the beta is available to your portal, then it will show up. So I know there were a couple of people that mentioned that weren't seeing some of the betas that you're showing in their portal. That would be why.
Sure.
And Rich wants to know if he can get you some WD-40 for your chair.
It needs it, right? It needs it. This is a super cheap like IKEA chair, so yeah, I definitely need some WD-40 or something. That's the first time anyone's ever brought that to me, so thank you for being honest with me. I'm gonna go and get a new chair after this.
We're very honest here at Admin Hug. We don't hold anything back.
I'm gonna bring this up with my engineers that they never mentioned this to me on a call, and they need to be more honest with me.
There you go. Let's see. There's a bunch of single votes. I'm going to just go through a couple. Is there a way to import documents like IDs as it is often requested against a contract record?
Yeah. So I think this gets back to the attachments one that was brought up during the presentation. Again, would love example files of how you want to include something like a PDF or an ID, as you mentioned, in a spreadsheet that would then be attached to a file. I'm really interested to see what format you want that to take. Once we get example files, for everyone listening, if you want something to be imported, the best thing you can provide my team with is an example file of how you would expect that to look upon import. That way we can validate it against what we are currently thinking, and it helps us to understand where our customers' heads are at as they start to think through different import experiences. So for attachments specifically, would love to see how people want to represent those PDFs or documents that they would want to be attached to their records in a CSV file.
Yes, and see, I'm trying to resort them. I am, Kara. So every time I resort, that changes the order. So kind of scroll all the way back to the top. Maybe Bevy will give me a sort option. Q&A, that would be lovely. Let's see. If you forgot to add a column to your import, is there a way to manually add it when let me restate that. Hold on. If you forgot to add a column to your import, is there a way to manually add it when importing? Example, you forgot a column, so you could add it in the data from that screen, like a drop-down field or a text field that all rows would have the same data.
Yeah, definitely something we are thinking through. It is definitely possible with our remapping tool and something that we've talked about as a team and what the value would be for that. We're thinking about it like from a deals perspective. You're importing deals, you include deal name, you include deal stage, but you forgot the pipeline. And so you want to then add a new column to just make it so everyone is listed in your North American sales pipeline, for example. It's definitely possible, something that we're thinking through. And could be around sooner rather than later, for sure.
Awesome. All right, I saw another one sneak up with some votes here. Is there a way for potential duplicate company contacts to be identified during the import? Example, a company record with the name Restoration Hardware already exists. Would you like to associate that to record ID, blah, blah, instead of creating a new company record for the Restoration Hardware Inc.? We see slightly different domains and spelling formats in companies.
Yeah, so the way that we handle it is by that unique ID. And the reason why we do that is because there could be companies, that validly have the same name, and we don't want to dedupe off of just name. And so in order to properly dedupe company records, contact records, et cetera, you need to use something that requires unique values. And so if you're on the mapping step within HubSpot, on the left, you'll see the properties that are required to create new records within your import. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the properties that are required to update existing records. And so you'll need to make sure that one of those properties is properly mapped and the records that you're hoping to update have a value for that property. And if you do that and matches what's in your spreadsheet, then we will go and update those records as you import.
Awesome. I saw another question pop back up. You guys are keeping me on my toes over here.
I appreciate that you're hunting them down. I'm sure you're more experienced at Belly than I am, but I wouldn't know where to start. So thank you for hunting them
Well,
down.
normally there's two of us ping pong in both areas. So let's see. I saw it. The property usage beta is helpful, but is currently too broad. Is there somewhere we can give feedback on the beta? So you can do that directly in the beta.
Yeah. So, or, follow me on LinkedIn. Would love to hear that feedback. It's not the first time we've heard that feedback that, we're not able to filter it down by just active workflows or properties that trigger enrollment. We're well aware of it. And the feedback that we hear from customers, the more we hear that feedback, the more we can bring that to the teams that potentially own those other features that we are pulling into the import experience and say, hey, there's definitely customer value in adding this here. So keep the feedback coming. We want to build it out, and hopefully we can soon.
One that snuck up with a couple votes. When will we be able to import deal associations outside of a deal only import? So just so you hear that coming in.
Interesting.
Is there an easy way to associate a contact with multiple companies? Use case customers are counting companies.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned this earlier, but the way that you would do that, where you're associating one record to multiple other records, is just copy that unique ID down the spreadsheet, and then you'll be able to bring in those other unique IDs or those other records alongside each instance of that other record so that you can associate multiple records to one record in your import.
Let's see, I'm going to try to get squeeze a couple more in here. Any chance with exports we can get a third choice? Export all, export by view, or pick which viewed items to export, for example?
Would love to hear more about that. Whoever asked that, if you want to follow up with me after this, I would love to hear more. We currently allow you to say, okay, I want to export this view, and then you can say, hey, give me all the data for these records that are in this view, or just the data that is in this view. So you can say, okay, I have this view that has 10 columns, 10 properties that are included. And if you say just what's in this view, we'll export those 10 properties, or you can do all the data and we'll do every single property that's in HubSpot. So would love to hear if that's what you're referring to, or if there's something else that you're thinking about as you go through exports.
We've got a couple individual ones that want to know about recommended tools or apps for automated deduplication efforts.
Interesting. So a tool where, goes into a spreadsheet and says like, hey, this is a duplicate record.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. All over you can answer. Let's see. And there was someone else that piggybacked off of it way down the bottom. If you were asking that, go ahead and put some details in the chat.
I think also the other thing that can be really helpful we've gotten a lot of questions about unique IDs and deduplication. I think the best thing you can do for managing duplicates is understanding really intimately how HubSpot and our data model handles duplicates itself. And so knowing that there are specific properties that require unique values, like email, like the record ID property, like any custom unique ID property that you have, understanding that that's what we use to do deduplication off of, and then ensuring that your file has that data. I think that's the first step towards it. In terms of specific apps, I wouldn't know any other than just the find duplicate values it's included in Google Sheets and spreadsheets and things like that.
Gotcha. Let's see there. I noticed someone talked about the semicolon again. Did I hear you say that you could append the new data to existing data for a multi-select field? You just add the semicolon at the beginning of your new data. Yes, Charisse. And that one, for some reason, it's one of those you don't learn until after you've made the mistake a couple of times of importing data.
I think I learned that one maybe on month 2 or 3 on the team, and I was like, oh my goodness, how's it taking me this long? But
yes,
there's a little bit of a hidden feature and something that we should probably make a bit more apparent.
Let's see. We've seen duplicate companies with the same domains. Is that a support question?
We should be deduplicating off of domain. The thing to keep in mind is that import alone respects company domain name as a unique ID. So if you're creating records manually within the CRM, you are able to create companies with the same domain as another property. The reason being is maybe you're doing business with a franchise and some company Starbucks.com, there are multiple Starbucks locations. And so each location that you're doing business with will have the same domain. But you can via import use that to dedupe off of. Or if you have the example that I just offered, you can use record ID as the deduplication property or a custom unique ID that you might have created. So import for the longest time allowed you to deduplicate off of that company domain name. But if you're just creating the records manually in the CRM, they don't have the same validation.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question and then I'm going to let everyone go. Time. Let's see. Sleisha says, auditing and scoring emails while importing would be very much appreciated despite any third-party tool.
Can you repeat that?
Auditing and scoring emails while importing would be very much appreciated despite of any third-party tool.
I think what she's getting at is like maybe a email health check to make sure that the email is valid or can receive.
She says yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Not something we currently do. There are a bunch of third-party tools there, but not something that we currently do. We do want to make sure that as you're bringing data into HubSpot, that it's valid data, that you have permission to be contacting these people. But we're just not currently focused on making sure that we're validating emails and making sure that they're valid and healthy emails that can be sent email to.
Gotcha. One more snuck in that I missed. So for importing documents, couldn't you use the file path URL in the CSV to refer to the appropriate document?
Potentially. I would love to know, where are you getting that file URL? Is it from a service like Dropbox or Google Drive? Is it from somewhere else? All that information, super helpful to us. So spam my LinkedIn DMs. Hit me up.
Hit him up, everybody. He said it. So I didn't tell you to do it. He told you to do it. Awesome, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for all of your amazing questions. I will make sure that these get over to the team, as well as any of the survey questions that come in that you want to share. So I will make sure to share those over with them, everyone. I will see you all on Tuesday of next week, and this recording will go out very shortly. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. So much fun to hang out with y'all.
Thanks. Bye.